You're listening to the articles from Seize Your Adventure.
I need to make a confession. Until yesterday, I do not think I really understood the word adventure. It's quite embarrassing, really. I call myself an adventure advocate. I produce a podcast called Seize Your Adventure. I ask all my guests what adventure means to them. And yet, when people ask me what adventure is, and more importantly, how to have one, I could not quite get the explanation right. You see, the word adventure is like the word love. It is a poor signifier of a feeling that is difficult to explain. I have heard it described by multiple people in similar but differing ways. Adventure is a mindset. It makes you feel all the emotions. It feeds your soul. It's uncomfortable, but worth it. None of these descriptions are wrong. If you know adventure, you know exactly what they mean. But how do you describe adventure to those who do not have it? How do you advocate for something so intangible? The first time I remember feeling adventure, I was 7 years old. My family went on the first of many holidays to Snowdonia. We drove across the country from our home in the south of England. My mum and dad would share the long drive, and my older sister and me would sit in the back seat with our rescue dog between us. The day of travelling was filled with cassette tapes and car games, and the landscapes outside the car windows became increasingly unknown. It was a holiday in the UK, my own country, and yet we crossed over a border that brought a new language into my life for the first time. I remember us giggling at the Welsh word araf, teasing the dog with the bark-like word for slow. We walked into slate mines and rode trains along the coast. The day we walked up Snowdon, we stepped into the clouds, and I never reached the top because I was too scared of the wind and rain. It was the epitome of a family adventure holiday. Since then, I have felt adventure many times. When I've stood on glaciers in sunshine, when I've navigated Spanish streets by moonlight, when I've pushed my body to keep walking from one village to the next. And yesterday, I felt adventure again. It might not have looked like much from the outside. It was a simple walk through the parks and commons near my house. There was no terrifying weather. I was not walking across a foreign country. I even made it home in time for dinner. So what made it adventurous? It was the fact that I put myself into a situation that invited the unexpected. I didn't plan my path, but instead I took tangents where I felt like it. I stopped to watch a robin that was standing on the top of a post and trilling his song. I was surprised by the spider that had taken a seat on my water bottle. I giggled at the metal charcoal burner that had the name Norman embossed on the side, and I wondered if all charcoal burners have names. And best of all, I found myself far enough away from the bank holiday crowds that I surprised a deer on my path and had a frozen moment of mutual acknowledgement before she bounded off into the bushes. As I enjoyed this feeling of adventure just miles from my own home, I thought about how to capture the feeling and explain to others how they can find adventure themselves. And the easiest suggestion I have is to take yourself away from human-made comfort and out into uncontrollable nature. When you do that, you put yourself in situations where the unexpected will occur. You open yourself up to adventure, and, like love, you'll know adventure when you find it.
Hello everyone, I am Frankie York and I'm joined here by Fran, and you have just listened to Advocating for Adventure in the Everyday by our very own Fran. So I'm going to ask her some questions on it. So Fran, as we just discovered, you published this in 2019 ahead of the stay-at-home curve, if you will. Obviously you went on this walk and that inspired you to see adventure in the everyday. What made you want to come home and share that experience with everyone?
It was just a really nice walk. No, this one very much came out of doing the podcast, because obviously, as we know, everybody that comes onto the podcast, I do ask them, what does adventure mean to you? And it was something which I'd ask people, and as I said in the article, everybody says very similar things that all resonate if you know what they're talking about, but I've never been able to articulate it very well myself. And when I was out on this walk, it did kind of just click with me that was an adventure. That was something which was unexpected when I went out. I didn't know what I was going out for, except for to get a little bit of a stretch of my legs and stuff, and then lots of exciting things happened, even though it's just around the corner from me. So yeah, it just felt like a little bit of a light bulb moment on that walk, and came home and wrote it up straight away. It was hardly any editing, which is very unique for me.
That's really awesome. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know, I thought it was great. The beginning kind of struck me a little bit because I can't ever imagine not having a sense of adventure. Mind you, there's certain people that spring to mind if you said to me, who doesn't have any adventure? There's a few people that I've come across in life, I'd be like, that person does not know how to adventure. But it's just, there's like a blank space, because obviously you say to me, like, what's adventure? I'm like, it's this, it's that, and the other, and you know. But obviously, as I said, this was pre-lockdown, pre-everyone stay at home. And I will say the last 18 months or so has encouraged everyone to sort of rethink their adventure or reframe what adventure means to them to sort of accommodate the local lockdown laws of the time. When all of that came about, did you feel like, it's fine, I already know how to do this?
There was a slight superiority when people were talking about adventures close to home, and I was like, I've done all that. I know my area really well. But then even with all of the adventures I've done close to home over the past however many years I've lived here now, in the lockdown period, I still managed to find places that I'd never been to before. It is definitely interesting to have that push with lockdown to actually have to stay local and not have an option. I definitely still found places which still little adventures closer to home during that period. Having said that, we are now recording this in March, and it's been a year since our first lockdown. I'm very much ready for some big adventures again. It's no matter, you always get to that stage where just get itchy feet and definitely need a slightly bigger adventure soon, for sure.
100%. It's like, before all of this, my idea of an adventure was, get the cheapest plane ticket to as far away as possible and go, or pile as many of my friends in a car as I can and drive somewhere. Obviously, those are things that maybe I took for granted before, because we can't do that at the moment. I guess this has all taught me to be a little bit more appreciative and aware of adventures I can have in the everyday, a little bit closer to home. But yeah, let's hope that we can all get back out there soon. I also loved, I will say, the little insight into your like childhood and family situation dynamic when you were like, yeah, and we went to Wales with your sister and the rescue dog. And I was just like, oh, I had that family experience too. We used to put us all in the car. We didn't have a dog when I was growing up. We got one when I was about 12. And everyone would go to like Wales, and we'd climb Snowdon as well, and we'd go out and we'd have picnics. And I just was like, oh, we all really did the same thing then, didn't we?
Yeah, there's a definite I think with our, I was going to say with our generation, you're kind of a little bit below me technically, but with our generation, there's a certain, I don't quite know how to say it. Yeah, there's a shared experience of a lot of people that fall into middle class, but not like upper middle class demographic, where you could go on holidays, you could go and like put yourself in situations like that and travel to Wales, and you might not be able to travel to France and do like skiing holidays and things, but it's that very in between kind of like nice little adventures over Wales and Scotland way. And
I was just going to say, like, the fact that we were able to do that with our families does reflect a little bit of privilege. And I think the fact that we can now advocate for everyday adventures, and that's a lot more on people's radar. It's a really good way to promote people getting out in unexpected ways, almost like people that maybe can't afford to take the time off or financially can't go and do these kind of things, just to say, hey, just because you haven't gone and climbed a mountain doesn't mean that you didn't have an adventure. And I really like that.
And this article actually came at a time where the reason that I went out so close to home was because I didn't have much money. It was during the period when I was building up Seizure Adventure. I mean, I'm still building it up, but it was during that period where I was spending more on it than any money that was coming in, and I didn't have the money to go and do the big adventures that I wanted to do. So it was very much, as we heard in our very first episode with Jade Nelson, it's getting into that mindset of trying to find the adventure in what you have available, essentially. And like you say, definitely when you have quite a lot of conversations about, were you always adventurous? Were you always into hiking and sports like that? And it does make you realise, yeah, actually, I was always adventurous to a certain extent. I did have access to the outdoors as a recreation and hiking as a holiday when I was very young, which we forget that not everyone does. It's just not in someone's family history sometimes. My boyfriend's one of them. It's probably why he doesn't do anything still. But
although having said that, like, about adventure, advocating for adventure in the everyday, it really kind of shifted how I felt about things, because the day I was glossing over these to sort of have this conversation with you, I had to go out to Ikea to get a chest of drawers because I'd moved house again and I had to sort some things out. And I drove over to Ikea, and I'd never been to an Ikea before, and let me tell you, that was an experience in itself. I can't believe I made it to 22 and I'd never been to an Ikea before. Anyway, so I'd found the chest of drawers that I wanted online, so all I did was have to go and collect it. So it was a 40-minute drive there and back. So anyway, I went and I came back, and I sat down to build this chest of drawers. And again, something I've never done before by myself. Like, I like to think I'm very capable. Like, I've been all around the world. I've done X, Y, and Z. But one thing I've never done is built anything without calling my dad and being like, Dad, how do I do this? But I was determined, and I sat down and I got out the instructions. And I don't know if you knew this, because I found this out a few weeks ago. IKEA instructions have no words in them. It's just pictures. Anyway, so I sat down and I did it. And when I was finished, I was like, wow, that was a real adventure. And I've not left my bedroom. So, yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, I don't think you can class it as an adventure. And then I kind of sat to myself and I was like, no, if you want to say that was an adventure, then it was.
Yeah, that's it, definitely. We are all adventurers. We are all adventurers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm quite proud of that article. It's a nice article.
I think it's great. And I think it's a really nice, we can just say like, oh, well, I hope that like everyone has sort of learnt a little bit from this article, that obviously we have all been stuck indoors, stuck local, and maybe it's changed their perspective a little bit. But in the same vein, I hope that we can all get out and have some real adventures soon.
Yes.
I say this, I'm not in a completely different country right now. But
yes, I have to say, I'm very, very, very torn between planning new adventures and not getting my hopes up at the moment. But I might well be going back to Wales with my family in July. So we've booked a family holiday in Wales again and heading back to my home of adventure.
Oh, that's so nice.
And the dogs. So we've got 2 dogs still. We've not, but my parents have. It's collective we.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I think I'm going to get dogs soon. But
yeah.
I feel like with the next couple of years, I can very easily put a dog into my life, but I don't know what I'd do if I don't want an office job. I can't ever see myself having one, but I wouldn't want to take that option away from myself. So I'm considering it seriously.
Yeah.
Just see.
Yeah, I just have to find an office that has dogs in it.
Dogs. Part of me was going to train it and then put a vest on it and be like, oh, it's a seizure dog.
Yes.
What are they going to do? Say no?
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Fran, for sharing that little outlook with us. If you guys have enjoyed this, we would love it if you let us know, or if you've got any questions or feedback. Again, you can go to our YouTube, our Instagram, or send us an email if you like it old school. And don't forget that you can go to our Patreon as well to find bonus content. And yeah, don't forget to seize your adventure. Have a nice day. I don't know how to end things. It's really
Say it one more time without the have a nice day. The end.
And don't forget to seize your adventure.
Yay!
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.